everything really is always working out for you. In truth, life is conspiring in your favor every single moment. And it may not seem that way all the time. There's a part of you that has every right to believe and all the evidence to suggest that the world is against you, that people are out to get you, that it's not always working out. And that part of you has every right to believe that. But you can still open up to the truth that nothing has ever gone wrong, that reality really is on your side, that life really does have your back, that the world wants you to succeed. And the moment that you open up to this and you choose to see this, you allow yourself to embrace this, that's the moment that everything changes. And you see from a higher perspective that, in fact, you have been benefiting the whole way through, despite what seems to be going on, despite what seems to be appearing. I remember a few years ago during COVID, I had for years built these businesses, which were like my babies. They were everything to me. I had poured blood, sweat, and tears into creating them. One was a marketing branding agency, which I loved. I was working with brands from all over the world, and it was a successful business. And it was providing me with a healthy income, supporting my lifestyle. And I'd taken a lot of those proceeds and I'd invested it, hundreds of thousands of dollars, into a shared office space, a co-working space. And this was my pride and joy. This was in a little town called Whistler, Canada, and it was the hub of the community, a creative hub for entrepreneurs and artists and all sorts of different coaches. And it was like a community center of creativity, of imagination, of connection. And I loved spending hours and hours there every single day. I loved meeting and greeting people and welcoming them into this abode. And for years, I had poured myself into this business. I had connected with hundreds of individuals from all over the world over these years. And somewhere around 2018, especially into 2019, my attention started to shift. My intention started to shift. And I started to become aware of myself and the world in a very different way. And it wasn't for no reason that at around this time, I started to meditate more. I started to open up to more of myself. I started to expand my paradigm, my beliefs, my perspective. And that's when I met a teacher and a community, and I started to travel back and forth to Europe to spend more time with them. And of course, as we all know, during 2020, COVID hit, and I was faced with a choice. I could continue my life as it was, although for many reasons that was changing too because of the lockdowns and the government restrictions on my businesses. The marketing agency was basically all but closed because the brands that I was working with and the companies that I was working with, due to uncertainty, were basically pulling out of the contracts that we had established for months and months and years. And the co-working space was under unbelievable regulatory oversight and restrictions and lockdowns that it was really unclear how I could proceed with this business as I knew it to be. And so it would have taken a lot of effort. It would have taken a lot of my time and energy to make these businesses work and last. And I discovered that my heart was no longer really in it. I was changing. My interests were changing. My passions were changing. I was reawakening parts of myself that were long lost. And that's when COVID hit. And I was really faced with a choice. Am I going to stay here and try to make this old life work and these old ways work and these old businesses work that I once loved dearly, but were no longer fully in alignment, not fully in the joy and the love of my heart? Or am I going to step into the unknown? Am I going to trust that life is serving me? Am I going to reframe this situation rather than life is against me? You know, I'm losing these businesses, I'm losing this income, I'm losing this way of life and all these connections that I once held so dear. Or am I going to see the silver lining here? Am I going to open up to the possibility that life is serving me in this moment? Even though I can't see or know, or even admittedly believe in that moment that it was, somewhere in my heart I knew that this was an opportunity, a blessing in disguise. And it was God sent. And so I acted on that inspiration. I contemplated and I found clarity in my heart of what I knew to be true and what I knew I needed to do. And that's when I moved to a monastery for 6 months in 2020. And I met so many beautiful people there. I had the most incredible experience. It was also incredibly confronting because I was facing my inauthenticities, my insecurities, my incongruencies with who I truly am. And all of that made it so liberating. And if it were not for that pandemic, if it were not for that crossroads, that point of choosing that was really kind of forced upon me, and having to see the silver lining, really allowing myself to open up to see what is the gift in this moment, that I could really discover that life truly is always serving me. And looking back on it now, I could have easily taken a darker route. I could have blamed the government. I could have blamed all sorts of different people and all sorts of aspects of life that were working against me, taking away the things that I'd built, you know, that I'd worked so hard to create. But I chose to see the light. I chose to see the hope. I chose to see the opportunity. I chose to look for the synchronicities. I chose to follow my heart. And you see, no matter how hard it may seem to get, no matter how many odds seem to be stacked against you, there is always the possibility for you to search your heart and to find that beautiful glimmer of hope, that possibility that life is working out in your favor, that actually this could be a blessing in disguise, and that there is always the opportunity, the possibility to make the most of it, even when your mind or that part of you has every reason to believe that everything is against you. And that's just the freedom that you have to create your experience, to frame things in the way that you choose to, that through your perception you create your reality, and that you can make the most of it with just your imagination. And when you do, you open up to greater feelings. You allow yourself to see from higher perspectives. And therefore you allow synchronized pathways to open up. Rather than closing down and narrowing your focus and really blocking out the possibilities in the moment, you expand your horizons. You see, it all really starts with that feeling and that choice to see that things are working out, to feel good about it regardless of how it's going. You know, at some point in your life, it's all going to end and it's all going to fall away. And you're not really going to have those things anymore. You're not going to take them with you. So what you're going to remember, I believe, is the experience. It's going to be the choices that you made, the life that you lived, who you became, and the feeling that you inspired in others, right? That sort of legacy that you left behind in the hearts and the minds of others. And that's going to take on some different form for you. But really, it's the unfolding of the story of your life. That's the legend and the legacy that you will leave behind, that you will take with you. And so what is that for you? If you allow yourself to see that life is always serving you, it's like a current that's carrying you. It's a blessing that's always behind you. If you would only choose to see it, to agree with it, to open up to it, to embrace it, to allow it, that's how you co-create with life. is through your awareness, through your acceptance, through your allowing. It's a beautiful thing, the free choice that you have, the perspective that you can cultivate, the perceptions that you can discern. Nothing's off limits when you create from that point of alignment within yourself. It doesn't require effort or force. It doesn't need struggle. It simply needs clarity of consciousness. And then everything that is good and true and pure and light and loving, it all seems to find its way to you when you're in that open spaciousness. So, something to think about, something to feel into. What if every single thing that's ever happened to you, with a different frame of mind, with an open heart, was actually for your highest benefit?